Hey everyone, welcome back to Harmony Hour with Deepa, and I'm super excited to be back. And Happy New Year to everyone. And It's been a while. I was taking a break so that I can come with more positive vibes and more good stories. And today we have Eepsita Gupta, who is a SaaS agency, her own SaaS agency, and the name is Simple Words. And she's just 29, and she has she has
I like that we're starting out with that before everything.
that's a quite like young age for many of us,
I guess.
and she has done a lot in her life, and she's going to give a brief introduction about herself, because if I'll start, that'll be too less to say and explain. It'll be better if you enlighten us with all of it. And she's going to start her another company that is around spirituality in New York, and please enlighten us that. And I'm super glad that she's here, and we are going to get a lot of insightful, and she's into spirituality, health, wellness and everything. And let me get a lot of inspiration from her, that how does she do all of it at just 29.
My God, Deepa, talking about inspiration, the fact that you're even hosting this, starting a podcast in itself is like quite the battle. And
Don't
for you
ask
to
me
have
that. Like, it's a lot to me sitting here, a lot of inspiration, a lot of, push. I needed it. But yeah, it's not about me today.
I mean, a lot of people need that push, and a lot of people get it, and
Yeah.
you're still here with one, right? So,
Yeah.
congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
And congratulations, I'm guessing that's the first episode of the year, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
And you are starting
congratulations on
it.
that. Yeah, I'm very privileged to be a part of that. Thank you so much for having me. Um, so yeah, in terms of what I do, what I've done in my life, I've done quite a few things. I've been told by a lot of people I shouldn't be doing so many things. All my life, I've been told just commit to one thing and do that. But I think I came from a space where, as I was growing up, I had a lot of interests and I pursued all of them. And some things, you know how everybody has that, right? You enter into it for a bit and then you like it and then you stop liking it so much and then you quit and then you move on to more things. I've had a lot of those things, but fortunately, even from a career perspective, right, I was able to dabble into a lot of things. I've been able to be a creative producer. I've actually written ad scripts. I have been a travel creator. Now I am a creator in the lifestyle space, in the wellness space a little more. I run my own firm. I have done jobs within the marketing space. And I have heavily been in the B2C space at the start of my career, and now I'm entirely in the B2B space. So, yeah, there's quite a few things that have gone on here. And it's been a fun journey so
Yeah,
far.
sounds fun. like, uh, so, what is the spirituality thing in your life, and how did it come in your life? And also, I wanted to know that what are you doing the next project? Because I know that you run a SaaS agency, and now you're talking about another project, and that is quite big and something very different. Like, you are talking about spirituality in New York, right? That is totally different. And also, like, what made you, like, how is spirituality for you, and what is it?
Yeah,
Because everyone pursue it in a very different way.
yeah.
So what made you think about that?
Yeah, I think so. There are two things. One part of it is ever since I was really young, right? I've been exposed to it in some way or the other. People call it different things. Our family per se isn't very religious. But one thing that I've grown up around is conversations around energy, conversations around Reiki, those sorts of things. And I've grown up with that. So when you grow up with that, I think one of the benefits you get out of that is your level of cynicism reduces. And despite that, I come from a science background, so I still need a lot of evidence for a lot of things, right? There was a time when I was in the mountains. This was between the first and the second wave of the pandemic, right? People had started breathing. We didn't know a second wave was about to be coming in. And I went to the mountains. I thought I'd go there for 4 days. I ended up staying in the mountains for 6 months in that very trip.
Okay.
And it was then that I think to have been in the proximity of nature, and these were the mountains where the Dalai Lama himself has one of his stays there,
Oh,
right?
wow.
He
Yeah,
resides there.
yeah.
And so the energy of the mountains was incredible, and it's not in a way that I can tangibly define what that energy was, right? It's one of those things that you feel. And before that, all my life, people had asked me, are you a mountain person or are you a beach person? And I had no answer to that, because, like, I don't know, what could I have been? But having been there, there was something that was just so spiritually grounding and uplifting. I've never felt soulful the way I did experience it in the mountains there. And that's kind of where my spirituality journey began. And this is something that people are going to have their guards up on. And I know it's going to be tough for people to believe, but there was this one point I did an entire trek. It's a 21-kilometer uphill trek and then 21 kilometers down, right? And I came back and my legs were shivering. They were shivering to the extent that I just couldn't walk at one point. I'm in my room, I'm on my bed, and I'm completely dead. I can't walk, I can't stand and walk up the washroom. There was a person there, another traveler. She happened to be a Reiki healer.
Oh.
And she asked me if she could give it a shot, just help me walk around at the very least. Because honestly, it was not even a matter of 20 feet that I could reach. I couldn't walk that much. And she spent about 20-25 minutes doing something. I have no idea what she's done. She had her own things. By the end of it, I was in a space where I could get up, I could jump, I could dance all on my feet.
Wow.
Walking was nothing. It was like I was back to normal. And I feel like there have been multiple evidences of this in my life. And thereon, I knew there was something more to energy. And ever since, I've been able to read up on a lot of spirituality, on a lot of how much we're all a part of the same universe. We're all the universe in essence. There are a lot of there are a lot of people who I can quote that on. But yeah, it's to me, spirituality in essence is just to understand how you are a part of the universe and how you can channel the universe through you in the best way possible.
Wow, that's like another way to see that. Okay, that's great. And what exactly is the company, what you're coming up will do?
Yeah. So I feel like there are a lot of things that help you get closer to who you spiritually are and get you closer to the universe, right? Now, within that, there could be breathing practices, there could be specific meditations around it, there could be dedicated visualization manifestation courses around it, right? There's an entire ambit of things that come, sound healing, multiple things
Yeah.
that come under the ambit of it. So the goal is to set up a space where people can start experiencing this, and when people enter it, they come in with an intention of what they want to be getting out of it. So to
Okay.
begin with, it starts off as an experiential setup where it could be day long activities or it could be 2 to 3 day retreats. I am about to have a test of that, like at least my first actual launch of that, right? With people who are closer to me, people who are going to be able to give me very honest feedback on how their experience was in India itself in the next couple of months.
Wow.
But beyond that, yeah, I'm going to start rolling it out in New York and see where that goes.
That's so great and all the best.
Thank you so much.
I truly feel that a lot of people need these kind of thing because recently last year I joined Pilates classes and meditation yoga, and trust me, that was the best, it's the best place for me to escape and like, forget everything in the world, and I so much enjoy it being there and just getting like sitting and doing yoga and meditation just to like because a lot of things happen in our life right now. We don't know how to balance our personal life, professional life, and everything is so mixed up, and I truly feel like you will have a big success on that.
I
And
think that word, right? Balance between professional life, personal life. I feel like that word itself is one of the most brilliant things you get out of any such reflective exercise. And that could be yoga, that could even be going to the gym for that matter,
yeah.
right? Any space where you get to yourself, where you're doing something for yourself, your body, your mind. That's what you kind of in some way start bringing about, which is balance.
Yeah, that's beautifully put up. Also, you are a traveler, right? You travel so many countries. Being a traveler, what is the best thing to take away from you, and what motivated you? Like, what are the takeaways you have taken from, like, traveling? Because I have been to several countries and I just see that, every people has the same like life, but they have different stories, and you can write a book about every person's journey, and there is so much to learn. The biggest thing I've learned is like gratitude and being more humble and kind to people. So what are your takeaways and what have you learned through this travel journey?
Yeah, I feel like travel to me is almost second nature. I don't think about it the way you don't think about eating or drinking water or anything like that, right? Uh, what I take away from travel, one of the most brilliant things I think that travel helps, and this doesn't need to be a very fancy space, right? Even stepping outside of where you live on a day to day basis into any new environment, perhaps an environment that is positively stimulating to you, right? What it does is it broadens up your perspective, because so much of your perspective on a day to day, when you're thinking about things, right? We don't realize how much our space, how much our same environment start limiting that. The more you encounter things that you encounter on a day to day, the more your nervous system is unable to think of more things, because now it's wired in that same way, right? Doesn't have incentive to think beyond it. As soon as, and this is a legitimate thing that's spoken about in neuroplasticity, right? Which is, how do you grow your brain? You put it through new experiences. That new experience could be as simple as, if you brush your teeth with your right hand, use your left hand, and then you start making your brain work a little more and it starts getting broader. In a similar fashion, when you put that in terms of travel, right, the way it expands your mind is incomprehensible to us, because one part of it is the way the thoughts itself, right? Your day to day thoughts have started evolving now. But the other part of that is, when you're by yourself or when you're even with other people, but in a completely new setup, there are challenges. And the more challenges that you actively can go through, the more confidence, the more resilience you yourself build, and the way you feel about yourself gets better. Beyond that, when you interact with people, right, when you interact with the same set of people day in and day out, again, your mindset gets limited to that space. Suddenly, you're interacting with a person whom maybe you've never thought of before. There are so many limiting beliefs we as humans have. It's inconceivable for us to see different parts of different people come together in a whole new person,
Yeah.
right? And when you interact with those things, suddenly you're just like, oh, these are things that I didn't think were possible, and that's happening. Plus, I personally love the ideas of, like, a, proximity to nature. B, I'm a very big design fan. I really love the way people think through not just aesthetics, but I also mean to say, let's say, how different the bus system is, let's say, in India versus Germany. Say, for instance, the doors, right? In India, you don't have a lot of doors. In Germany, there are sliding doors that'll just open and close. If you're in the bus and you want the bus to stop, you need to give them a hint, okay, we want
Yeah.
the bus to stop. There's a button, you press that, and that's when the door opens. Otherwise, the bus keeps moving. So many different things, the way people think about solving problems. Yeah, I really enjoy that.
Wow, like there's so much to take away from you, and so beautifully said. Like, I totally agree. You know, travel is something which gives you a lot of confidence, a lot of takeaways in many different ways. And I feel like, you know, everybody should travel. Like, don't buy luxury things and all. Like, save your money and just go out of your comfort zone. And
You know, this is a very interesting thing that you bring up. I think I used to say the exact same thing. One thing that I'm realizing of late is, right, um, I used to think of it as an either or, like, don't do this, but do this instead. In fact, even when you think about it in a lot of ways, right, it's always about be a certain kind of traveler, go out for experiences. But again, one thing that as I'm growing up, I'm realizing is, I think one of the most beautiful things that people can do is just be true to themselves. For some people, maybe travel is just about going to an expensive store, and we're in Dubai. You know about it,
yeah,
right? Like, you go into an expensive store, you buy something that you really like, and you get out of that, you feel good about it, and there is absolutely no problem with it. If travel is something that will bring joy to you and you do it, there is, like, that's brilliant. I've also, yeah, so I feel like in that space, right? The idea of us putting forward an experience that we have experienced, thinking that that's what everybody will benefit from, I feel like maybe that sometimes may not be the most fair thing for us to do. And I feel like acceptance, right, is such a beautiful part of growing up, because you're just like, people can derive joy out of a lot of things. Maybe their way to grow their brains can have something that's not related to travel at all. I would personally, of course, through my subjective experience, I think travel is one of the best ways.
so many keywords to take away. Oh my god. But like, Your thoughts are like beautifully done, and you're so sorted at the age of 29. I'm like still struggling with it, but focusing on to get there.
You have no idea how many dark nights of despair
For sure.
I have
There should be like,
taken.
some downs to see the ups, right?
Oh yeah, I feel like yeah. Now I feel like my life is in an upward thing, so I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, there should be.
Yeah. Also, I feel like a lot of times when I'm saying things, the one thing I'm realizing every time is when I speak about things, um, I have so much room for evolution because maybe what I talk to you about today, right? If you speak to me in a couple of months, in a couple of years, maybe I have completely gone back on that, right? Because I need to leave that room for evolution. I'm never going to be in a space where I can claim this is what I know, this is the objective truth of life. So I'm telling you this based on my experience right now. Maybe if we have this conversation a year down the line, it'll be
Oh.
completely different.
So, I want to ask that when did you realize that you want to open like, your own business and become an entrepreneur? Because earlier you were working for some company and then you started your own journey at the age of 26, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what made you do that and how was it? How did you cope up with failures and the dark nights?
Uh, I, again, I think I have a sister, and we've grown up in a household where my parents have been extremely liberal and progressive in the way they see their daughters. We've never been made to think that we can't do anything. And so, for us, in fact, when I was growing up, one of the earliest role models I have is of Kalpana Chawla.
Wow.
And she was, of course, in NASA, and she was the one who's gone to space. So, I've grown up with having a lot of big dreams and big ambitions. And fortunately for me, I've been able to get that support from my family itself, also, right? So, in that respect, I think I always knew I wanted to do things, and I always feel like, yeah, there is some potential here that I want to do something of in the world. Um, how has that been? It's been tough. I think one of the reasons why I took the plunge when I did is because the pandemic was definitely tough for me, but also growing up, it was I'm still learning to unlearn a lot of the things that I have learned. But if I've had to grow up with a lot of people pleasing set into the bone, which I feel like a lot of people experience too,
Yeah.
right? And so unlearning the process of how do you stop pleasing people and how do you start doing things for yourself in a way that you're not offensive to anybody and you don't harm anybody.
Pretty
But
difficult.
despite that, yeah, how do you still draw your own boundaries?
Yeah.
How do you learn to prioritize yourself? Same thing, right? Wear your oxygen mask first, and that's when
Yeah.
you're going to be able to help other people the most. So those things, and because of that, it percolated into a lot of things, even in my professional space. And I was always on the verge of over delivering. And I always had this irrational pressure I'd put up on myself. And I was very lucky for the last organization that I stepped out of, right? My manager was absolutely incredible, very, very kind. He gave me a lot of space to breathe, to understand, to reflect. Pandemic, when it hit, I think for all of us, it was a whole lot of reflection packed up into just a couple of months, things that we haven't done so much in our entire lives that all of us now have to do because there's no other alternative.
True.
And so that's when I'm in the mountains, a lot of things are coming together. And there's this one quote I really like. It says, "What if I fall? Oh, but my darling, what if you fly?"
Yeah.
Which is like,
I love it too.
yeah, it's so lovely. It's just so simple. But yeah, I was just like, why not? And then when I did start it, it's very tough because I started it while I was living in Bangalore, right? Now, Bangalore as a city is the startup hub of India.
Yes.
If you interact with anyone in Bangalore, it's about the hustle. It's about how do you get to the hyper growth, like the next million, blah, blah. And for me, I think just before I started Simple Words, there was another uh, startup that I was working on, which was an app for people in relationships.
Okay.
Now, with the experience of that, one thing that I got out was, and I think that's one of the most brilliant things professionally that's happened to me, is I got the space to step back and define for myself what success meant. And before starting Simple Words, success to me was completely externally dictated. Success to me was, are investors liking this? Is this something that's going to make people go like, oh my God, this is such a crazy thing, it's blowing up? Is this going to make people be like, I want to be in this, I want to be in on this, all of those things, all of those
Yeah.
cliches that come with it. Am I raising the funds? And I suddenly realized, after I did that and after I completely burnt out and I was in the mountains, I realized maybe that's not what life is about. Maybe that's not how success is supposed to be perceived. So I was able to start defining it in my own way. And when I started Simple Words, especially for the first 2.5 years, I was in a space where I needed to breathe. But I was in a space where I also wanted to earn. So how do I balance that? I was able to set it up in a way where I had to work for 3 hours a day and I was still making more than what I would in my full time job. So for me to have realized that, okay, you know what, you can actually be working 3 hours a day, be comfortable. Could I have been working 8 hours a day and making 10x more of what I was? Of course. Did I want to at that time? Was that a priority in my life at that time? No, it wasn't. So I feel like in hindsight, when I look at it, right, that's what I would love to tell the younger Eepsita before this, that just figure out your own definitions of things and you don't need external validation for things.
Wow. And at what age did you realize this?
Uh, at 20, because I started Peekaboo, which was the app for couples in a relationship. I started that when I was 25.
Oh, wow.
And then I had a complete burnout, a massive burnout. And again, I think the mountains came to my rescue because they helped me breathe and they just helped me get perspective on it's the simple things in life. You start placing your value in so many externally driven metrics and optics, and you forget that life is really, I to this date, one of my most favorite intimate memories were in that time while I was in the mountains. There was a group of us who was there, and completely different backgrounds, and all of us are just sitting in a circle, jamming to music, having conversations, laughing, just a cup of chai, nothing fancy at all. And to this day, those are some of my most special core memories. So I feel like, yeah, just realizing life is just about where you are right now, the present, how you can be breathing there, be happy.
Wow. That's why it's called present.
100, the now, the power of now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll just pause for a while and want to thank to all those families and all those parents who support their children, like, because we are so much different from the generation we were, like, and I love those parents who push their children and just say that, you go, we are there. Means a lot to us, sitting here. And I also have a family who is very supportive, and I want to thank to my in-laws especially, because after marriage it's very difficult, to do something of your own, and then they support you in that. And especially thanks to my father-in-law, because he's such a darling, and it means so much to us from the family support. And it's like a healer, like they are a healer for us, right? When
100%.
we see smile on their faces, and they support us, that you do, we are here,
Yeah.
and means so much. So I want to ask you that you are entering in your 30s. Okay, so how does it feels, and what are your takeaways still here? Because for a woman, especially, I think for all of us, I guess, because men's are also taking it seriously now. So, what are your takeaways, and how do you feel like for? I'm not sure that how should I put up this question, but what are your takeaways, and what are you expecting in your 30s? Like,
I think opposed to a lot of people, I think when I was 25 years old or 24, maybe even 23, I don't recall. But at one point, somebody who was already in their 30s, right? I was speaking to her and she told me that 30s is this absolutely blissful decade. As soon as you hit your 30, right, something in your something in your mind switches off, and you just stop caring about the world.
wow.
You don't care about what people think of you. You don't care about how you're perceived. You're so much more yourself. You're so much more comfortable in taking your own decisions. To a person who, and I love that, there is nothing wrong with that, but I've grown up in a family that's very tight knit, right? I have an elder sister, and because we've been so close as a family, it's been very easy for me to delegate bigger decisions of my life, because if somebody else is taking my decisions, I don't need to take responsibility of
Yeah.
it. So it's been very easy for me to go with the flow.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up with that, plus when you add the people pleasing aspect to all of it, right, the idea that I could reach a stage where I did not have to people please was just so alluring to me. So all my life I've actually really looked forward to turning 30.
Wow.
And yeah, and I feel like the last 2 to 3 years, they've been very tough for me on a lot of different aspects, even on a personal relationship side, right? Um, and despite that, with every single passing month, I just felt like that one thing has still stuck in my mind, which is that by the day, I feel like I'm caring less about what people think of me. The pressure I put on myself is lesser, and I am on the way of just living for myself. And honestly speaking, I could stop at the word living. I'm just on my way of living. And yeah, to me, 30s are very exciting. I have like about 9 months to go. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm still waiting. Like, what if by the time I turn 30 on my birthday, there's this whole new level of not caring
Yeah.
that gets unlocked. I'm really looking forward to it.
That's a kind of, exciting and like peace, that you're making
Yeah.
peace with yourself. And me and my friend says always that, 30s are the new 20s, just with money and a lot of freedom. You understand what is life, because everybody understand in a very different way
Yeah.
that what life is. Like,
Yeah.
for some it is money, for some it's joy, peace, meditation,
Yeah.
spiritualities,
Yeah.
and everything. But I feel like 30s are the new 20s for us, especially for the 90s kids.
I honestly feel like sometimes I feel like, why do we even need to call it the new 20s? 30s are the 30s because they're brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't know it yet, but I feel like they're going to be really great. I think one of the biggest reason why is, and I've loved that about my 20s, is I felt like I was running around like a headless chicken. I had no idea where to go. When I was bumping into things, I had no idea what to do. I had no armor to protect myself from things. I had no ammunition to be able to actually attack in space that I wanted to. And now I'm in a space where I've just thought about things so much. I've seen so many different things that now I feel like no matter what direction I pursue, I still don't think I have a clear view on what direction or what is the one specific thing I want to do in life. But I know कि जो भी करेंगे, whatever happens, it's just going to all work out. Like one way or another, I have myself backing me. And that in itself is such a brilliant place to be in. And like you said, having money always helps.
Yeah.
So why not?
Money is
Yeah.
power.
Money is power. I think peace is power.
Yeah, I think both goes hand in hand.
Ideal setup. Money and peace, yes. Yeah.
To
Exactly.
balance, again, it's
That
about balance.
100%, yeah. Peace.
Yeah.
I also feel like a lot of people only villainize money. Like they think if you have money, you can't be peaceful. And I feel like that's, again, a very big limiting belief that people bring to the table. Because oftentimes it's good for you to aspire to keep earning more. And balance, again, where do you strike that balance of how do you do that while being the truest to yourself, right? Which
Yeah.
does not mean every single day, every single moment, any work that you're doing or any way that you're trying to earn your money, you should be absolutely in love with this. Oh my God, this is my most favorite job ever. I could not have asked for something better. That's not how every day needs to be like.
Yeah.
But when you have your goal set up, maybe this job, and this is in fact a conversation I had very recently, last year, with a very close friend of mine, Surbhi, who's also a founder right now, and she's doing incredible things in
Okay.
her own way. She's running two organizations
Wow.
herself, actually, Neend, and she's now started India's biggest
Oh, Neen, the podcasting thing, right? The storytelling.
Neend storytelling. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
their
love
content
that.
setup, but they also have their own brands,
Yeah, I
right?
love that.
And now they're starting an entirely different venture
Wow.
in sports. And she told me this one thing because I was talking to her about how my work, right, it constantly makes me feel unfulfilled because I feel like in some way I want to give back and I'm unable to give back. And she told me this one simple thing about, is your agenda to grow wealthier at this point of your life? And I was like, yes, that's what I want to do, and that's what my work allows me to do. But it doesn't feel like I'm able to give back to society in a way. She's like, why do you need to restrict yourself to that in this particular role also? Why can't you consider that if you're really great at what you're doing right now, perhaps in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you're going to be at such greater a stage that when you want to give back, when you want to make an impact into the world, you're going to be far more capable to do that. Not every job, not every stint that you're doing in your life, not every bracket of time in your life needs to be about one specific thing. Your priorities can keep changing, your commitments to think can keep changing, and it's all about how you can be the truest to yourself so that you can't pour out of an empty cup, right? fill your cup, and then
Wow.
you'll have more to pour out.
You have such a good friend.
100%.
We'll love to have her on the show as well.
I'm sure she'd be an absolutely brilliant person to have
Yeah.
here.
So you are a manifester. What does manifest and how does, like, it works? Because I'm a manifester too, but
Oh, lovely.
I am just reading How to Manifest.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
book. I don't remember the author, sorry for that. But how does it work in your life, and what does, it has a magic when you start talking to yourself and start manifesting things and everything. So what role does that play, and how do you manifest?
I feel like this is the part of the conversation. Perhaps it happened a lot earlier where people are going to be like, oh my God, voodoo, this is just, this does not make sense. It's not backed by science. I don't care about this. What is this? But yeah, I would say everybody in some capacity has been able to manifest. I don't think you and I are manifestors per se.
Yeah.
People have been able to. Are we able to more consciously do it now? I think so. And yes, I do think there is a lot in my life that I've been able to achieve purely by virtue of manifesting, especially the past 2 years, right? And I had a few financial projections of goals that I set for myself and my organization last year. And it seemed a little inconceivable to me when I put that on paper, because for a very long time I was stuck at a very different number. And when I put that on paper, I just allowed myself to believe it was real. And I did. And we're about to end like the years in accounting and everything for that. And we hit our goal. We
Wow.
actually hit our goal. I would not have seen this coming at all. And to me, it would have been a very absurd idea. But just taking away that mental block and that barrier that it can't be possible, it's just not conceivable at all, to allowing yourself to just believe that it happens. That is great. Another beautiful thing that happens with manifesting, right, on a day to day is you just start getting lucky.
Yeah.
The instances of you randomly bumping into people, randomly bumping into things, potential that are aiding into the direction that you want your life to take, right? This conversation, for instance, I wasn't supposed to be here in Dubai.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, Garf, he
Yes.
really insisted we go out for cold play
Thanks to
because
him.
thanks to him that we're here.
Yeah.
And this conversation wouldn't have been happening at all, but I know this is the direction I want to actively be talking about, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm a creator in any case. This is the space I want to be talking about more. What were the odds of something like this happening? I didn't
True.
even know somebody like you existed,
True.
right? So it's just more and more aspects of magic, of serendipity start occurring into your life. And I feel like that's kind of how manifestation actually manifests itself in your life. But in terms of how you do it, the biggest thing to start off when you're thinking of manifestation is to understand this one underlying concept of you can't want something and have it at the same time.
Yeah.
Which means that if you come from a space of a lack, I don't have it, I want it, I don't have it, I want it. And if you bring any sort of negative sentiment to that, oh, I don't have it, those sorts of things, you will not be able to manifest that. To
So
be able
true.
to manifest it,
You already have it in your mind.
you need to believe it's already there, because that's just how frequencies work. And it's very funny, I won't be able to go into this in like the short time that we have, but there is an entire physics that goes behind this, and there's a lot of conversation about matter as a solid form, in a wave form, and how all of that plays a role into manifestation. But yeah, there's some legitimate science behind
Yeah.
it. I have seen evidences for myself, for other
Me too.
people.
I've experienced, like, sitting here was a manifestation for me as well. Like, I used to sit in front of the mirror with the chair, and I used to say that, hi, my name is Deepa, welcome to Harmony Art. And like, I used to manifest that it's already happening. And I, like, every day I say in the morning that I am someone very famous. Like, I never, like, believe you should talk negative even if you're sleeping. But some days are dark, right?
Yeah, of
Some
course.
days you meet, like, not so good people, and then they. So now for me, my social people with whom I am, it means a lot. And I'm very people person, but I have a very small group, because the people who they I should be around with, like, it matters most. So that's how I manifest, and how it works, like, for me is like I always talk positive about myself, and with the people, I always appreciate them, what they are doing,
Yeah.
like, how they are putting up themselves, and I always try to take inspiration and the good parts from them.
Yeah.
And if they're doing something, then I'm not there.
That's a
I behave
very good
like.
positive approach, because I feel like then you're not just restricting yourself to manifestation, but even on a day to day, right? That's that. There are proper studies done on people who are cynics and people who are still optimistic about things. And it's always shown that people who are optimists end up living longer. And
Yeah.
that's just because you're able to see the better out of things. And that's the one thing that can keep pulling you forward.
Yeah.
Because it'll always, whatever you choose to focus on is what becomes a reality. And
Yes.
I'm going to bring in a little bit of science here, but there's like this very famous double slit experiment of an electron, where the electron, like the beam is passed through, and the only way you see an electron is if you're observing it.
Yeah.
As soon as you take away the double slit, you can't see the electron anymore. And it talks about how from a wave, right, it's suddenly brought into a particle format only by virtue of observation.
Yes.
So, what they say is, if you choose to focus on the negative, that's what you're bringing into fruition. If you choose to focus on the positive, that's what comes to life.
Wow. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so
Okay.
glad I'm here too.
So we don't have a lot of time. Maybe next time you have to come again. But talking on the Instagram, you have a good followers, number of followers. And what made you like? I have gone through your profile and it's quite good. You post a lot of wellness and yoga, doing meditation, and so how's like it started for you the Instagram journey? And I must say like you have a good number of. So can you suggest to me also, like I just started this podcast and I'm also growing organically. I don't want like fake uses and all that, but how was the journey?
The journey was really simple. I think it started off in fun. And people underestimate the value fun has in our life. And I just started creating content because I got myself a selfie stick.
Okay.
Not to create content. I got myself a selfie stick to be able to take selfies. But suddenly, magically, that selfie stick also had a tripod under it because it had too many features.
Yeah.
And I got so excited looking at a tripod. I was just like, I'm going to start shooting content from now on. And it's
Nice.
purely because of that selfie stick. Bought on Amazon for, I think, like 400 INR, 500 INR. I don't even think it was too much. But that got me on the path, and then I realized I was trying to figure out what do I want to create content in. And I realized in any case I've been doing this, that years ago when I used to travel, right? I used to travel, I used to take videos, I used to edit those videos myself, and I used to put them out because I love storytelling. I love creative conversation in any way, any creative expression. And that's what I started my journey with. I was traveling in any case, and I started building content in that manner. I think what really started working is, for me personally, was because I was able to promptly edit it, I was able to give myself feedback loops very quickly. So whenever I shot something, I edited it, I posted it, immediately I would get some feedback loops into what's working, what's not working. And I did that. However, one thing that I'm going to tell you is that be very clear when you're starting out on your creative journey, right? If picking this up is a creative pursuit, or if it is a professional and a mix of creativity and a mix of giving back in those sorts of a pursuit, right? Because what happened for me was I was able to figure out the algorithm and grow with it, but I realized my personal agenda back then was more to express creatively.
Okay.
And that had stopped happening because now I could just be like, oh, this is what the audience wants, this
Viewers,
is what
yeah.
I'm going to give it. And I lost my sense of voice. So I did step away. And then when I came back, I was a lot more present about what do I want to bring to the
Yeah.
table. That can marry what your followers want. But just one thing is, don't lose your voice in all of this. And the second thing is, yeah, I think you've started this right now, you're going to get a lot of bites, you're going to get a lot of things that you might want to emphasize on. You keep growing. The space that you're creating this conversation in, I think, is anyway a space that people need more of at this time. The world is heading into so much consumerism and getting lost into their digital spaces so much that they've forgotten the idea of now. And
Yeah.
you're bringing the idea of harmony into people's life. And harmony involves being completely present with multiple things that are going on at the same time. So I feel like you've set yourself on a very good path.
Thank you. I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah, of course.
So we are at the end of the show, and what's the one piece of advice that you want to give to the viewers, that how, like, you should just, it's not too late for those, because here I am to inspire a lot of people. I say that, this is about beyond the bio, if a person is successful, the backstory to cover up, because everybody cares about the glamour part, but nobody cares about the, like, the hardship and everything. So here I am to motivate to those people who are yet to start in their life, because I feel like the day you wake up and get to, like, start, you can always restart your life, because I feel like if you have that potential and you have the power of manifestation, and you can think positive and you can do everything in this world. So what is one piece of advice you want to give to all those people out there who are still struggling to, start up in their life and to do something better with their life?
I think there are two parts to your question. One part of it is who are still struggling but they want to do something, and the other part of it is for whom they might think it's too late.
Yeah.
Or right. So I'll address the second part of it first. Too late. This is again a very recent realization that I've had. Right. Let's assume hypothetically my goal was to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Hypothetically, right? I could be that person right now while I'm 29. I could be that person while I'm 58. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is what happens for a lot of people, and we don't realize that because we're consuming so much social media and we don't have that at the top of my head, is that we're constantly comparing ourselves to people.
Yeah.
So to me, what will feel grander is, oh my God, if I became that CEO at 29, oh wow, she's so young and she's been able to do so much. But then I have to take a step back from that and think about, is being that CEO relevant to me, or is doing it at this age for the optics and the validation I get from people more important? If you feel like you don't care about that validation and you want what you want in any case, then the pursuit of that is a lot simpler, because then that's an intrinsic motivation. It's not
Yeah.
externally driven. And then you won't need to have as much stress. You won't need to think about the time factor in your life. So I feel like be mindful of that, be wary of that, and then navigate through it. It'll be easier for you. And this is for people who know what they intrinsically want. The second part of it is people who are struggling to begin. Like, why not just do it? I think it's honestly as simple as getting up and deciding to do it. If this were about your podcast, right? You decided to one day start setting this up, start building it up. You thought of an entire concept, everything was done. You shot your first episode, you shot your second episode, third episode. There'll be fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. If there is ever a point where you started off thinking, I'm going to have 600 episodes, and you put that pressure on yourself at the onset itself, the volume of work you have to do to battle that inertia is going to be so much higher. And then again, there's this one quote that says, you don't need to see the entire staircase. Just take the first step. Worst case, it doesn't work out. And I love this because, again, I'll wrap this around like as a departing sentiment, right? It's just that nobody is thinking of us as much as we are thinking of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's like the biggest superpower that we have.
That's so true. And yeah, a lot of takeaways we have. And thank you so much for being here. And I'm so glad you made it here. And thank you for being here at a so short notice.
No, absolutely. It's been such a lovely conversation. You're such a lovely host, and I'm so excited for everything that follows. Very, very
Yeah.
exciting journey.
Thank you so much.